The galaxy had long since been divided into sectors, controlled by countless alien species, each more brutal and oppressive than the last. The Earth had been a relatively quiet, insignificant planet in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, overlooked and ignored by the mighty powers who ruled over the stars. But all of that changed the day the Galactic Dominion set its sights on Earth. The Dominion was an empire founded on conquest and subjugation. They had taken worlds by force for centuries, bending civilizations to their will. Earth, however, was not a world they had planned on conquering. It wasn't rich in resources or technology, and its inhabitants were too scattered and unorganized to pose any threat. But the Dominion's leaders saw something different. They saw an opportunity. The humans, though primitive by galactic standards, had one thing that no other species had: resilience. The ability to survive against all odds. And so, the Dominion sent a fleet to Earth, not to conquer it, but to break its spirit. To crush humanity's will, to fight back before it could become a thorn in their side. The humans were unaware of the looming threat until the sky began to darken with strange, alien ships, massive and imposing. The first sign of the invasion came when a brilliant flash of light exploded over the major cities, leaving shockwaves that shattered windows and rattled buildings. The Dominion's forces, hundreds of warships strong, dropped from orbit, sending down their terrifying armies of insect-like warriors and towering machines of war. The humans fought back with what they had: outdated weapons, makeshift defenses, and sheer determination. The military tried to respond, but the overwhelming force of the Dominion quickly rendered their efforts futile. In mere days, cities fell, governments crumbled, and the Earth was forced to its knees. But even in the face of annihilation, something remarkable happened. In the midst of the destruction, pockets of human resistance began to form. No one had expected them to rise, but rise they did. Small, scattered groups of soldiers, civilians, scientists, and even children fought back using guerrilla tactics, exploiting the terrain, and relying on their resourcefulness. The most unlikely of heroes emerged from this chaos. Dr. Sarah Emerson, a scientist who had worked on defense technologies in secret, became one of the key figures in humanity's fight for survival. She had spent years developing prototypes of advanced weapons, but had never dreamed they would be needed for such a conflict. Yet here she was, leading a team of scientists and engineers to modify and repurpose every scrap of human ingenuity to turn the tide of battle. Alongside her was Captain Marcus Holt, a battle-hardened military leader who had seen the horrors of war before. But he had never faced an enemy like this. He quickly became the symbol of hope for the humans as he coordinated resistance efforts across the globe. His tactics were unconventional, but they worked. The Dominion underestimated the human will to fight, and this was their fatal mistake. As the Dominion's forces began to march through the streets, confident in their victory, the humans struck back with ferocity. The first true victory came when a group of resistance fighters, led by Holt, managed to destroy a key supply depot deep within the heart of a Dominion base. The attack, though small in scale, sent a powerful message: the humans were not to be underestimated. The Dominion's forces, though vast and technologically superior, had not accounted for one crucial thing: the adaptability of humanity. They believed the humans would fold under the pressure, but instead they rallied. They began to coordinate attacks across the globe, striking in waves, sabotaging alien technology, and picking off Dominion soldiers one by one. Despite the odds, the humans held on. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction, yet they had not given up. Earth had been invaded, but not conquered, not yet. As the Dominion fleet loomed overhead, preparing for the final assault that would eradicate humanity, a plan began to take shape. It would require every last drop of courage, every ounce of ingenuity. The fight for Earth had just begun, and the humans were ready to show the galaxy that they would not go down without a fight. The first blow against the Dominion had been struck, but the battle was far from over. Humanity had survived the initial assault, but they were scattered, divided, and lacking the resources to take on a galactic empire. The Dominion's forces were vast and powerful, with entire fleets at their disposal. Yet the humans had something the Dominion could never have predicted: unity. As the Earth slowly began to rebuild in the wake of the invasion, the global resistance factions began to coordinate. They were no longer isolated pockets of desperate survivors. They were becoming something more. Under the leadership of Captain Holt and Dr. Emerson, the remnants of Earth's military and scientific communities came together to create a new, unified force. They would fight not just for survival, but for freedom. Dr. Emerson's work had been crucial in the fight. Using reverse-engineered alien technology and salvaged Dominion equipment, she and her team of engineers designed new, more advanced weapons. Energy shields, laser rifles, and advanced armor, things humanity had never seen before. The most innovative of all was the development of the quantum disruptor, a device capable of temporarily disabling Dominion ships and weapon systems, giving the humans a chance to strike back. But despite the technological advancements, the humans knew they still faced an uphill battle. The Dominion had an entire galactic empire at their disposal, with thousands of planets under their control. Their military might seemed insurmountable. That's when the idea of a rebellion truly took root. The spark for the rebellion came from an unexpected source. A small group of prisoners, captured during the initial wave of the invasion, managed to escape from a Dominion prison facility on the outskirts of Earth. These prisoners were not soldiers nor scientists, but ordinary citizens, farmers, engineers, teachers, and students who had been caught in the chaos of the invasion. They had witnessed the atrocities of the Dominion firsthand, and they had seen their families torn apart. Led by a former teacher named Emily Reyes, this group of survivors made their way through the ravaged Earth, gathering more recruits along the way. They spoke of something that had been absent for far too long: hope. They didn't just want to survive, they wanted to fight back. To stand up and reclaim their home, their world, and their future. The message spread like wildfire. Across every continent, resistance cells began to form. People who had once lived ordinary lives were now taking up arms, organizing sabotage missions, and launching surprise attacks against the Dominion's occupying forces. The Earth had become a battleground, but it was also the birthplace of something new, something unstoppable. The humans had found their voice, and with it, they were ready to ignite a revolution. Captain Holt, ever the strategist, knew that in order to truly have a chance, the resistance needed to operate as a unified front. He traveled from country to country, rallying the various factions of the rebellion, forging alliances with those who had once been enemies. It was a delicate balance, but Holt understood that the greatest strength the humans had was their diversity. It was their ability to adapt, to improvise, and to fight for what they loved. Meanwhile, Dr. Emerson worked tirelessly to improve the weapons and defenses that would be needed for the coming conflict. She had discovered that the Dominion ships, while formidable, were not invincible. With the right weapons, the humans could start striking back in earnest. The first true test of their new tactics came when the rebellion launched an all-out assault on a Dominion supply convoy heading to Earth from a nearby star system. The humans had gathered intelligence from captured Dominion soldiers, and Holt's team had devised a bold plan to destroy the convoy before it could deliver vital reinforcements to the occupying forces. The attack was swift and brutal. Using stealth technology, the rebels slipped past the Dominion's early warning systems and ambushed the convoy in the dead of space. The battle was intense, with humans fighting with everything they had. They were outnumbered, but they were also unpredictable, using their knowledge of Earth's environment to their advantage. The Dominion, with all their superior technology, had underestimated the human spirit. The convoy was destroyed, and the Dominion lost crucial supplies, causing a ripple effect throughout their entire occupation of Earth. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. For the first time, the Dominion felt a pang of doubt. Could these seemingly insignificant humans actually pose a threat to their empire? The answer, though they didn't know it yet, was yes. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and there was no turning back. The humans were no longer just defending their planet, they were preparing to take the fight to the stars. As Holt, Emerson, and the rest of the resistance leaders watched from their hidden base, they knew the road ahead would be long and treacherous. But the humans had proven something important. They had proven that no matter how powerful their enemy was, the will to fight for freedom was an unstoppable force. And that was just the beginning. The first victory against the Dominion had sparked a fire within the human resistance, but it also drew the attention of the enemy in a way they hadn't anticipated. The Dominion, once confident that Earth's resistance would break under the weight of their superior technology, now found themselves facing a unified force that was becoming more and more dangerous with each passing day. And the humans weren't stopping at small skirmishes. They were preparing for a much larger, more daring strike. Captain Holt knew that to truly shift the balance of power, they needed to hit the Dominion where it hurt the most, their command centers. Deep within the heart of the Dominion fleet, in a heavily fortified space station known as the Obsidian Crucible, lay the Strategic Command Center for Earth's occupation. The Crucible was where every order for planetary operations came from, and it was guarded by the most advanced technology the Dominion had to offer. For the rebellion to succeed, they needed to destroy the Obsidian Crucible, a near-impossible task. The station was orbiting a gas giant in a heavily protected sector, surrounded by swarms of Dominion warships, automated defenses, and a fleet of droid soldiers. It was a fortress in space, and no one, not even the most skilled Dominion officers, had ever breached it. But Holt had a plan. The key to infiltrating the Obsidian Crucible lay in a small, almost forgotten piece of Dominion technology that had been recovered from the wreckage of a ship during one of the rebellion's early operations. It was an experimental cloaking device, capable of rendering a ship invisible to enemy sensors for a limited time. Dr. Emerson and her team had worked tirelessly to modify and enhance it, pushing its capabilities to the limit. With the device ready, Holt's team began preparations for a high-risk mission to breach the station. The plan was simple in its boldness. A small, elite strike team would infiltrate the Obsidian Crucible under the cover of the cloaking device, disable its internal defenses, and plant explosives deep within the station's power core. The blast would destabilize the Crucible systems, causing a chain reaction that would cripple the Dominion's command network. In theory, it was a perfect plan, if they could get past the countless obstacles standing in their way. Dr. Emerson, ever the strategist, worked closely with the team to ensure that their weapons, explosives, and cloaking technology were perfectly calibrated. Every detail mattered, as a single misstep could lead to the mission's failure and the deaths of everyone involved. The team chosen for the mission was a mix of the best of the Resistance's special forces, soldiers who had fought against the Dominion in brutal guerrilla skirmishes, hackers who had infiltrated Dominion databases, and engineers who could disable enemy tech on the fly. Among them was Emily Reyes, the former teacher-turned-leader, who had proven herself to be a natural strategist and a symbol of hope for the human resistance. The strike team's journey to the Obsidian Crucible was a tense one. As the small ship carrying them approached the gas giant where the station orbited, the true scale of the mission became apparent. Massive Dominion warships loomed like shadows in the void, their weapons primed and ready to decimate any unauthorized vessel that came too close. The humans' cloaking device kept them hidden, but only for so long. If they were discovered before reaching the station, they wouldn't stand a chance. In a tense moment, as they neared the Crucible's perimeter, an unexpected sensor pulse hit their cloaking device. A Dominion patrol ship had moved into their path. The cloaking device flickered, barely holding on, as the patrol ship's searchlights swept over the area. For a heart-stopping moment, the strike team held their breath, praying the Dominion ship wouldn't notice the anomaly. Then, as if by sheer luck, the patrol ship moved on, and the team breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had made it past the first hurdle. Once inside the Obsidian Crucible, they faced an entirely new set of challenges. The station was a labyrinth of dark corridors, each one heavily patrolled by Dominion soldiers and automated defense turrets. The team's cloaking device would only last so long, and every step was a calculated risk. They moved quickly, using stealth and sabotage to disable Dominion security systems as they went. Emily Reyes, once an ordinary teacher, now found herself in the thick of it. Her quick thinking and leadership proved invaluable as they navigated the perilous station, avoiding detection and setting up the explosives. It was a tense, exhausting operation. Every corner could hold an ambush. Every step could be their last. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the team reached the heart of the station, the command center. It was more heavily guarded than they had imagined, but their objective was clear: plant the explosives, disable the defenses, and leave before they were overwhelmed. As the bombs were set, Holt's voice echoed over the comms. "We've done it. Now we get out. Fast." But the mission wasn't over yet. The Dominion had detected an anomaly in their system and had activated a security lockdown. The strike team was trapped. The countdown to detonation had begun, and time was running out. The strike team had completed their mission, but now they faced an even more pressing challenge: escape. The Obsidian Crucible was on high alert, its once secure corridors now filled with Dominion soldiers and automated defense systems. The team had made it to the heart of the station, but their exit was compromised. The lockdown had been activated. Captain Holt cursed under his breath as the warning alarms blared through the station, signaling that they were trapped inside. "We have minutes, not hours. We need to move, now." Emily Reyes, breathing heavily from the strain of their mission, nodded grimly. "Everyone stay together, stick to the plan. We can still make it." The strike team scrambled into action, quickly making their way to the exit point they had planned. But the path back to their ship had been sealed off, and every turn seemed to lead them deeper into the heart of Dominion territory. The station, now in full lockdown, was crawling with soldiers, each one a potential threat to their survival. Worse, the station's automated security systems had been activated, sending drones and turrets into every corridor, targeting anything that moved. It wasn't just the Dominion soldiers they had to worry about. The Obsidian Crucible itself seemed alive with hostility, its corridors filled with the sounds of whirring machinery and distant explosions. The countdown to detonation was still ticking away, but they couldn't afford to be reckless. One wrong move, and they'd be wiped out before they even had a chance to escape. "Right," Holt said, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "We need to split up. Half of you head for the docking bay. The rest of us will take the maintenance tunnels. We'll meet up at the rendezvous point. Go." The team moved quickly, splitting into two groups. Holt, Reyes, and a few others took the maintenance route, while the others made their way toward the docking bay, hoping to find a ship that hadn't yet been moved or destroyed. Reyes, despite the chaos around them, remained calm. She had become the unspoken leader of the resistance, and in moments like this, her strategic mind was more valuable than ever. She kept her eyes sharp, scanning every corner for potential threats. The team moved as one, silent, efficient, and deadly. They reached a maintenance hatch, only to find a squad of Dominion soldiers rounding the corner. The humans froze, hiding behind a row of exposed power conduits. One of the soldiers paused, scanning the area. The tension was unbearable. For a moment, it seemed like they had been spotted, but Holt's signal came through their comms, a single word: move. With that, the humans sprang into action. Holt and Reyes led the charge, taking out two of the soldiers in swift, coordinated moves. The rest of the team followed, disabling the remaining guards and dashing down the maintenance tunnels. But the fight had only just begun. The Dominion had already dispatched reinforcements. The walls trembled as explosions rang out, and overhead, the deep rumble of warships sent a chilling reminder that they weren't out of the woods yet. The deeper they went, the more hostile the station became. Automated turrets activated in the narrow hallways, firing laser beams with deadly precision. Holt and Reyes led their team forward, using their knowledge of the station's layout to avoid being cornered. Each step felt like a race against time. Then, the worst happened. The countdown clock on Reyes' wrist communicator flashed an urgent warning: 1 minute remaining. The Obsidian Crucible was seconds away from detonating, and they were still nowhere near the rendezvous point. "This is it," Holt shouted, looking up ahead. "We're almost there." But just as they reached the final stretch of hallway leading to the ship bay, the emergency lockdown gates slammed shut with a deafening clang. They were trapped. Reyes pounded her fist against the door, her heart racing. "We're not going to make it." Holt was already thinking ahead. "There's a secondary access tunnel behind this door, just a few meters down on the left. If we can get through it, we can reach the hangar." He wasted no time. Drawing his sidearm, He took out the control panel beside the gate, frying the circuitry with a well-placed shot. Sparks flew, and the door creaked open, just enough for them to squeeze through. But as they pushed forward, the station's automated systems were closing in on them from all sides. The pressure was immense, and the clock was ticking. Reyes felt her stomach twist in fear, but there was no turning back now. "We're almost there," Holt urged, his voice grim as he led the team down the narrow tunnel. A final stretch of metal piping and maintenance shafts awaited them before they could reach the hangar bay. With seconds to spare, they burst into the hangar, where a lone human shuttle sat waiting for them. The engines were already warm, but they could hear the unmistakable sound of Dominion forces closing in on them. "Move," Holt shouted. The team scrambled aboard, with Reyes and Holt covering their comrades as they boarded. Just as the last person slid into the shuttle, a series of explosions rocked the station. The obsidian crucible was moments away from going up in flames. Holt slammed the controls, and the shuttle shot out of the hangar bay, narrowly avoiding a barrage of laser fire from the station's automated defense systems. Behind them, the obsidian crucible erupted in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves through the station and the surrounding space. But the battle wasn't over. As they sailed away from the wreckage, the shuttle's sensors picked up a new, terrifying presence on the horizon, the Dominion fleet, converging on their location. The explosion of the obsidian crucible had been heard across the stars. The humans had dealt a crippling blow to the Dominion's command structure, but in doing so, they had unknowingly triggered a chain of events that would lead to an even greater confrontation. The obsidian crucible had been more than just a strategic center for the Dominion. It had been the key to their entire military operation on Earth. Now, with the crucible in ruins, the Dominion's response was swift and merciless. Captain Holt and his team watched in tense silence as their shuttle sensors blinked with alarming readings. The shuttle systems were functioning, but they were still within range of the Dominion fleet, which had been on high alert ever since the attack on the station. Hundreds of warships, their immense forms dark against the backdrop of space, loomed on the horizon. The sheer size of the fleet was enough to send a chill through the crew, even after everything they had already endured. "We need to get out of here, fast," Holt said, his voice steady, but the urgency was clear. "Set course for Earth. Full throttle. We've got to warn the others." Dr. Emerson, sitting at the shuttle's communication console, quickly began working to establish a secure link to Earth's remaining command centers. "If we don't warn them about the Dominion fleet, they'll never be ready for what's coming." The shuttle's engines roared to life as it shot away from the wreckage of the obsidian crucible, but the Dominion ships were faster and their weapon systems more advanced. The humans had no time to relax. They were still within striking distance. On the bridge of a Dominion dreadnought, High Commander Vrock, a hulking alien with jagged spines running down his back, glared at the incoming shuttle. His sharp, calculating mind had already deduced that the humans were no ordinary species. Their ability to adapt and fight back had surprised him at every turn. But now, with the loss of the obsidian crucible, the Dominion's leadership had authorized a full retaliation. No longer would the humans be allowed to disrupt their operations. This time, the fleet would finish what had begun. "Prepare the interceptor squadrons," Vrock ordered, his voice cold and commanding. "We will not let them escape." As the Dominion ships closed in, the human shuttle raced toward Earth, hoping to outrun their pursuers. Holt gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles white. They were already pushing the shuttle to its limits, and the Dominion fleet was closing fast. "Shields are at 50%, Reyes reported from her station. "We can't take another hit like that." "We won't need to," Holt replied, his gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "We just need to make it to the atmosphere. Once we're below the radar, we can disappear. We've done it before." But even as Holt spoke, the first wave of Dominion interceptors appeared on their scanners. Sleek and deadly, these smaller craft were designed for speed and agility, meant to harry and disable enemy ships before they could escape. The Dominion knew they would never catch the shuttle outright in open space, but they didn't need to. They just needed to keep it from reaching Earth. The first volley of fire came, and the shuttle rocked violently as its shields flared against the blast. Holt quickly maneuvered, evading another barrage, but the strain on the shuttle was intense. Sparks flew from the console as Emerson worked feverishly to keep their systems online. "Brace for impact," Holt shouted as another round of enemy fire hit, shaking the shuttle to its core. The humans fired back, using their limited weaponry to take down a few of the interceptors, but there were too many. A fleet of Dominion ships was closing in from all directions. If they didn't make it to Earth soon, they would be overwhelmed. "We're not going to make it," Reyes shouted, her voice tight with panic. But just as the shuttle seemed destined for certain destruction, a strange signal came through on the comms. It was garbled, almost indecipherable, but there was something about it that caught Emerson's attention. "Hold on," she said, listening more closely. "I think I can." Before she could finish her sentence, the shuttle lurched forward. The sudden acceleration nearly threw everyone from their seats. Holt's hands flew over the controls, trying to maintain stability. "What the hell was that?" Holt demanded. Emerson's face lit up. "I think it's Earth. We're receiving a direct uplink from the surface. Can they help us?" Reyes asked, disbelief in her voice. "It's our only chance," Emerson replied. "They've got a prototype defense system. Our only hope to break through the Dominion's blockade." Holt's eyes narrowed. "Patch me through."
"Now."
A moment later, a voice came over the comms, a familiar voice. "Captain Holt? This is General Larson. We've been expecting you." Holt felt a surge of relief. General Larson was one of the key leaders of the resistance on Earth, and if anyone could help them, it was him. "We've got a window," Larson continued. "Our new weapon systems are online. We've been developing a countermeasure to the Dominion's ships. It's experimental, but it's our best shot. We're launching it now. Stay with me, Captain." The voice cut off, and the shuttle sensors flared as the first of Earth's defense systems engaged. A massive pulse of energy shot out from the surface of Earth, a shimmering field of light that spread outward. It was unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen, a weapon capable of disrupting their ship's energy fields. The Dominion fleet faltered for a moment, confused by the unexpected interference. Holt's heart raced as he saw the opportunity. "Now's our chance," he shouted. "Full speed ahead. Don't let up." With the Dominion fleet momentarily disabled, the human shuttle bolted forward, pushing through the now-weakened blockade. But they knew this wouldn't last long. The Dominion would regroup and strike back harder. The storm was only beginning. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, Holt looked out the window at the blue and green planet below. They had made it, but the fight was far from over. The revolution had begun, but the real war was about to start. The shuttle plunged into Earth's atmosphere, shaking violently as it passed through the thinning layer of clouds. Holt could feel the tension in the air, but he dared not let up on the controls. Behind them, the Dominion fleet began to regroup, their ships repairing and recalibrating as they prepared for another assault. They had mere minutes before the Dominion came for them again. Earth had bought them a brief respite, but how long would it last? "We're almost there," Holt said, glancing at the tactical map that flashed across his screen. The coordinates were marked, a small human stronghold just beyond the hills of a remote mountain range. It was an underground bunker, hidden from the Dominion's prying eyes. It was Earth's last hope, a fortress where humanity's leadership had gathered in secret, preparing for the worst. "We need to reach the rendezvous point," Holt urged. "Stay sharp." As they descended toward the military base, the shuttle's engines roared, cutting through the air. Below, the ground was littered with the scars of past battles, craters from skirmishes, trenches dug deep into the earth, and military installations that had once been thriving hubs of human defense. Now, they were nearly abandoned, with only a few remaining soldiers keeping watch. "Brace for landing," Holt called out as they neared the landing pad. The shuttle touched down with a jarring thud, its landing gear scraping against the rocky terrain. The door hissed open, and the team spilled out, weapons at the ready. The cold mountain air was a shock after the heat of the shuttle's interior, but there was no time to waste. General Larson was already waiting for them, flanked by a small squad of resistance fighters. His face was hard and weathered, but his eyes were alive with determination. "You made it," Larson said, his voice low and grim. "I didn't think you'd make it through the blockade." "We had a little help," Holt replied, his gaze scanning the area. The base was more fortified than most, but it wasn't invincible. The Dominion could reach it if they had enough time. "Is the weapon ready?" Reyes asked, cutting to the heart of the matter. Larson nodded. "It's ready, but we need to deploy it before they get here. The Dominion won't just sit back and let us regroup." Behind him, soldiers scrambled to move crates of advanced weaponry into position. This was humanity's last stand. If they couldn't make a dent in the Dominion's invasion, Earth's fate would be sealed. "Where's Dr. Emerson's?" Holt asked, realizing that their tech expert was nowhere to be seen. "I'm here," Emerson called, emerging from the shuttle with a bundle of equipment. "We're going to need to sync the weapon with our communication network. It won't work if we can't get it online." Larson gave her a brief nod. "We've got the best minds in the field working on it. Time is short, though. We've got maybe an hour before the Dominion forces arrive." The sound of distant rumblings echoed through the air, an ominous reminder that the Dominion's fleet wasn't far behind. From their position, they could already see the outlines of Dominion ships descending toward Earth's atmosphere. The enemy was coming. The next few moments passed in a blur of activity. Dr. Emerson, working with the Resistance's engineers, connected their new weapon to the base's communication array. The weapon, a massive energy cannon capable of focusing an incredibly powerful pulse of energy, had been developed from the research they had stolen from the Dominion, and it was humanity's last hope. It wasn't just about firepower. The weapon had been designed to target the Dominion's fleets in space, cutting through their shields and disabling their warships. But there were significant risks. If the weapon was miscalibrated or failed to fire correctly, it would destroy everything in its radius, humanity's last refuge included. As the team moved into position around the cannon, Holt felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was the dawn of humanity's revolution. "We have one shot at this," Larson said, meeting Holt's eyes. "We're putting everything into this weapon. If we don't make it count, we're all dead." "Understood," Holt replied, his voice grim. The weapon began to hum, its enormous barrel charging with energy. The air crackled with raw power as Dr. Emerson monitored the readings on her console. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she didn't flinch. This was it. "Systems online," she announced, her fingers flying over the console. "We're good to go. Just waiting for the Dominion ships to get into range." Outside, the Dominion fleet began to descend, the massive warships growing larger with every passing second. Holt watched the sky, his pulse quickening. It was now or never. "Fire when ready," Holt said. The cannon's barrel glowed a deep, pulsing blue as it powered up. A low, thunderous hum reverberated through the ground as the weapon discharged. A beam of energy, brighter than 1,000 suns, shot into the sky, cutting through the air with terrifying speed. It collided with the nearest Dominion ship, tearing through its hull and sending a shockwave that rocked the surrounding fleet. For a moment, it seemed as though the Dominion fleet had been decimated. Ships exploded in bursts of flame and debris, their energy shields vaporized by the sheer force of the blast. The remaining warships faltered, some retreating into the void. But then, something unexpected happened. The Dominion wasn't done yet. "Reinforcements incoming," Emerson shouted, her eyes wide with shock. "There's another fleet, larger than anything we've seen before." The first wave had been defeated, but the true storm was about to break. Holt knew that the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. "Ready the next shot," he ordered, his voice cold with determination. "We're not stopping until we win this war." The ground trembled beneath their feet as the second wave of Dominion reinforcements entered Earth's orbit. This new fleet was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever faced. The victory they had tasted moments before now seemed like a distant dream. The Dominion had learned from their losses, and now they were determined to wipe humanity from the galaxy once and for all. Holt stood at the front of the base's command center, his eyes fixed on the view screen. The Dominion ships were descending rapidly, their immense shapes blotting out the sky. Hundreds of vessels, more advanced and numerous than the first wave, were preparing for a final assault. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they're on us," Emerson said, her voice strained. She was working furiously at her console, trying to reroute more power into the weapon systems. "The cannon's power reserve is almost depleted, and I don't think it can take another blast like that." General Larson's face was grim as he surveyed the situation. The weapon had dealt a devastating blow, but the Dominion's massive reinforcements meant they could afford to lose a few ships. The real threat was the sheer number of their forces. "We can't rely on the cannon anymore," Larson said. "We need a backup plan." Holt's mind raced. They had no more time for fancy strategies. This was going to be a desperate fight, a fight to the death. "We don't have a backup plan," Holt said, his voice hard. "But we have something they don't. We have humanity's will to fight." As he spoke, a new, unexpected transmission came through on their comms. It was a distress call, coming from the remnants of Earth's remaining fleets. The last few warships had been engaged in a defensive battle against the Dominion, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "We've got nothing left," the transmission crackled, a voice filled with desperation. "We're all going to die." Holt's eyes narrowed. He knew what needed to be done. The final weapon wasn't a cannon or a ship, it was humanity's resolve. And if they were going to win this fight, they needed every last fighter, every last soldier, every last human willing to stand up against the Dominion. "General Larson," Holt said firmly, turning to him, "it's time to unite the human forces. We're going to break through their lines, hit them where it hurts." Larson hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "You have my full support. We'll gather the last of our forces." The team moved swiftly, rallying the last of Earth's resistance fighters. They wouldn't be able to stop the Dominion fleet completely, but they could slow them down long enough to give Earth's surviving military a fighting chance. It was a desperate plan, but it was their only one. Outside, the first waves of Dominion warships opened fire, sending waves of energy toward Earth's surface. The ground shook as blasts of fire and energy lit up the sky. But Holt and his team didn't hesitate. They took to the battlefield, mounting weapons of their own, knowing that they were the last line of defense. As the first wave of Dominion fighters advanced, Holt and his team engaged, taking down the enemy with everything they had. Laser fire filled the sky, explosions lighting up the horizon. The odds were insurmountable, but the humans fought with a fury that the Dominion hadn't anticipated. In the midst of the chaos, Holt found himself face to face with High Commander Vrock. The massive alien leader, towering and imposing, was everything the humans had feared. His body was armored with jagged spines, his face cold and merciless. He had witnessed the destruction of the Obsidian Crucible and knew the humans had become a threat too powerful to ignore. "You're a fool, human," Vrock growled, his voice like grinding stone. "You cannot win this war. The Dominion is unstoppable." Holt met his gaze, eyes burning with determination. "We're not here to win the war. We're here to make sure you never forget that humanity will never bow to anyone." With that, he lunged forward, engaging Vrock in a brutal hand-to-hand combat. The alien strength was immense, but Holt's resolve fueled his every strike. The battle raged around them as the two warriors clashed, their bodies slamming into walls and equipment, tearing through the chaos. Meanwhile, the final wave of humanity's ships arrived, bolstered by the last remnants of Earth's fleet. With a combination of advanced weaponry and sheer willpower, they fought tooth and nail, forcing the Dominion fleet to divert its attention. In the heat of battle, the tides began to shift. The Dominion fleet, stretched thin and overextended, started to break apart under the relentless assault. The human fighters, though outnumbered, were using every advantage at their disposal: guerrilla tactics, surprise strikes, and sheer, unyielding force. It was a long, bloody battle, one that would go down in history. Holt's team, despite their losses, continued to press forward, and as the sun began to set on Earth, the Dominion fleet began to retreat. As the last of the Dominion warships disappeared into the stars, the battlefield fell silent. Holt, battered and exhausted, stood over the fallen form of High Commander Vrock. The alien leader, his body broken, glared up at him. "Humanity will never surrender," Holt said, his voice low but steady. "And neither will we." With the last of the Dominion forces vanquished, Earth was finally free. The cost had been immense. Countless lives had been lost, and the battle had left scars on the planet that would never fade. But humanity had proven its strength. The Galactic Revolution had begun, and the Dominion would never forget the day when Earthlings fought back. As Holt looked out across the field, now littered with the remnants of war, he knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. The galaxy would never be the same again.